Hello. Hello, Sheikh sir.
बोला ना.
PPT दिसते का?
दिसती ना. पीपीटी नाही दिसत आहे, ते पार्टिसिपंट दिसतात.
ओके ओके. ठीक आहे ठीक आहे. Okay. So here we start our lecture. That is what is meant by tender. Tender, it is nothing but the invitation from the owner or the authority to the contractor to execute some work at a specified cost in a specific time with specific material specification. Okay, so it is nothing but the tender. This tender can be invited by a single owner or the authority of government or the authority of various institution, by which they can perform, or if they want to construct or perform any constructional work or a civil work, so that they can do that work by inviting the various tenders. Okay, everyone got that? What is meant by tender? Okay, in first line you can see that the definition of tender. So this tender, it is published on a various local newspaper as well as in a web. So whatever the tender published in the newspaper on or the internet, that tender is called as a tender notice. That tender notice can be published by the various authorities available or who wants to do the work for the. Hello, everyone would say that. Hello. Okay. So next is classification of tender. So the classification of tender, this is based on their nature, and there are 5 types of classification. Okay, the very first one is open tender. So this open tender, it is nothing but the oral talk or a written document between the engineer and the contractor for a certain small job to be performed. Means if we have to perform a tiny work or a small work, in that case engineers or the owner can make directly make a conversation to the contractor, and they can do that work. That is nothing but the open tender. The next one is a seal tender. The seal tender, it is nothing but the if the construction site will be very huge one or very important structures we have to construct, or that particular owner have to construct. So to do that construction work, he or the authority, means owner or the authority, whatever the tenders they can develop, that will be sealed tender. Okay, the next one is limited tender. In that, only selected number of contractors are invited. Only selected number of contractors are invited, because that particular work is very much important structure. Okay, so to assure the quality of work, only limited contractors are invited for that tender. Okay, then next one is a single tender. Now this single tender means what? Only one firm can invited to do that particular work. If its rate will be high, then that particular tender will be shifted or hand over to the second firm who is very keen on to do that work. Okay, And the last one is red contract. In this red contract tender, what who is the contractor? He will only provide the materials required to do that particular construction work, some particular trade basis. Okay, that is nothing but the rate contract or rate basis tender. Okay, next is procedure for inviting the tender. Now procedure to invite the tender, in that very firstly we have to prepare, or the authority who wants to invite the tender makes some documents. That documents called as a tender document. They want to prepare the some document. In that various information is mentioned, that we will see in a next slide. Okay, then second is issue of notice inviting tender or tender call notice. So as I already told, the owner or the authority who wants to inviting the tender, they have to publish their tender notice in newspaper or on the website or on the notice board of that particular authority office. Okay, so they can invite the various number of contractor to do that particular work. Then third one is submission and opening of tender and their scrutiny. After publishing or after inviting the tender notice, various number of contractor will submit that tender to that competent authority or that owner. So after getting the various number of tender, that particular owner or that particular authority will scrutify that all the tenders, or they can see the eligibility required to do that particular work. If that contractor is eligible or is having the all the requirement as per the as per the owner's requirement, then then that particular contractor will able to participate in the bid of that particular contract. And the very last one is acceptance of tender and award of contract. After uh, after the after cracking the eligibility criteria for that particular tendering, the contractor will awarded that particular contract. Okay, then he can able to do that particular work. So these are the four steps by which tender are formed and contractor will get their work. Okay, now next is information to be given in a tender notice. As I told that to complete the work, owner or the authority will form a tender notice which will be published into the newspaper. In that, owner or that particular authority gives the name of the department or the name of the owner. After that, name of the work and location. As we know, for example, if there is a PWD is a authority and they wants to do the work of road construction at another side of the another side of that part, their jurisdiction. So name of the department will be PW department, and name of work and the location will be name of work, it is construction of road work, and the location will be whatever the location of that particular will be there, that will be mentioned at that tender notice. Okay, then designation of officer inviting the tender. As we know, for the PWD work, the designated or the authority person is the superintendent engineer. For the ZP work, the authority person is a executive engineer. Likewise, that the designation of the officer who inviting that tender is mentioned in that tender notice. Then the last date and time of receipt of tender, also the last date and time by which that tender filled by the contractor will submit to that particular authority or owner. That is also mentioned in tender notice. Then period of availability of tender document, then cost of tender document. These all you can see is mentioned in the tender notice. Time of completion and type of contract, then earnest money deposit, date, time and place of opening of tender, designation of officer opening the tender. These all the information are mentioned into the tender notice. You can see these example of various tender notice in the day-to-day newspaper. Okay. The next is information to be given in a tender document. Previously, it is a tender notice. Now, if any contractor wants to fill that particular tender, so he know the whole information regarding that work. So information of that work will be mentioned into the tender document. So this tender document will contain the general condition of the tender. Okay. Then schedule of item of work with its clear specification. As we saw in a specification, the purpose of specification is what? The one purpose of specification is what? It will use to form a tender document. So with reference of this, in the tender document, item as well as the specification, it is mentioned into the tender document. Okay. Now if there is some special conditions are there, so that will also mention in that tender document. The next one, the notice inviting tender is specified form will be mentioned in the tender document. For example, in PWD department, the form number 6, it is important document to fill the tender. Okay. Then in tender document, layout plan and location is also mentioned in the tender document. Then next, division in which location it is situated. So at which division it is situated, that is also mentioned in that particular document. Then schedule of quantities of work, then nearest road or railway link, set of drawing including working drawing. So these are the various information it is mentioned into the tender document. As you can see, here are mentioned 12 informatory which can be entitled into the tender document. Also, the rate of supply of power and the point of supply means if that particular contractor will require any power, means the electricity. So how that electricity will provided to do that particular work to that contractor, that is also mentioned in that particular tender document. Also location of water supply point, time for completion and the progress to be made at intervals of time. These all information are mentioned into the tender document. Okay. Now the next will be earnest money. As you see in the tender document, here you can see that amount of AMD and the form in which it is to be made. So this EMD, it is nothing but the earnest money deposit. Okay. So what is this earnest money deposit means? It is nothing but the amount of money to be deposited along with the tender document to the department by the contractors quoting a tender. Okay. So this money or the this amount of money you have to pay at the time of the submission of tender document to that owner or to that competent authority. Okay. So why this earnest money is deposited? uh, this money or this deposit it will act as a guarantee amount for that particular work. Okay, if contractor got their work, this earnest money will be accepted and will not be refunded. If contractors get that particular work, then this EMD will be merged into the security deposit. There is a other deposit, that is nothing but the security deposit. So when contractor will get that particular work, this earnest money will be okay. So this earnest money will be deposited into the security deposit, or it will emerge into the security deposit. So this earnest money, it will be equals to the 1 to 2% of the estimated cost of that work. Okay, so now next is security deposit. Now next is security deposit. So security deposit, it is nothing but the amount paid by the contractor to the owner before awarding the work after his tender is accepted. So this amount is generally 5 to 10% of the estimated cost of the project. Okay.
सर कांबळे सर लेफ्ट झालेत.
सर कांबळे सर लेफ्ट झालेले आहेत.
Hello.
येतोय आवाज येतो.
So I am again informing those who don't want to attend this lecture, they can leave this lecture. Okay. Before starting the lecture, I was told that those who want that lecture, they can't participate in this meeting. Okay. So now onwards, if any interruption is there, then I am singly not taking this lecture. Okay. Other faculties will take your lecture. I am not able to take your lecture. So at this slide, we were left. Now we see the security deposit. Now security deposit is nothing but the amount paid by that contractor whose tender will be accepted to the authority or the owner of the work. So this amount will be 5 to 10% of the estimated cost. In this security deposit, earnest money is also merged. Okay. So why owner or that particular authority will take this security deposit if that contractor will not able to do that work in a specific manner. It means that if he will not able to do that work in a specified time or in a specific item that were mentioned into the contract, in that case this security deposit is used to do that work in other various contractors to prepare that work in a specific time or to complete that work in a specific time. Also, as in the view of quality, if that contractor will not assure or will not gives the quality of work for that particular construction, then that authority or the owner can hand over that work to the other contractor by using this security deposit. Okay, if the security deposit having more amount, so 50% amount of that security deposit can be deposited at the time of acceptance of the tender, and other amount of that deposit will be cut or will be deducted in the form of installment when the running bills provided to that contractor. Okay, so this is nothing but the security deposit. Then next will be liquidated damages and unliquidated damages. Liquidated damages, it simply means that the amount of compensation payable by a contractor to the owner due to the delay in construction. If contracts will be formed in between the contractor and the owner or the authority that you have to do that work in a specific time, and if contractor is not able to do that work in that particular time, then contractor may pay some extra amount to the owner or to that authority. So that is nothing but the liquidated damage. This amount of compensation is not related to the real damage. It means that in some cases what happen, there will be delay of, or now we take the example of present condition. In this pandemic covid condition, lots of construction work will be delayed. Okay, so due to that, whatever the extra time required to do that construction work to the contractor, it will be not compensated. Okay, so this is nothing but the liquidated damage. Now unliquidated damage. So unliquidated damages means what? It is the amount of compensation payable when contract is broken. As I already told, when the tender is accepted, there will be contract in between contractor and that authority. If that contractor is broken, whatever the amount is paid